call the meeting order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Valley Council meeting. We are live for our meeting for December 12th, 2022. And we're going to get started. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll continue on. So first order of business is to review our minutes. And so with that, I'll make a small comment to that. We see here on our agenda, if you have it, we have June 22nd, June 2022, October 22, November 22. So these last three meetings, we were not able to affirm these minutes because we were under quorum. I'm currently speaking with our new board, which is a great team. We had a swearing in recently, great team. And we are looking for, approval from the board to moderate our quorum numbers so we can move forward with some of our approvals. As we go forward, a lot of things are exciting happening for us. Actually, we have an enthusiastic, very well skilled and prepared new board president, Susan Johnson. And she is very excited about this committee. She gave some great ideas. I'm going to share with you here shortly. And so we'll be able to move things forward. To do that, we have to reach quorum. So right now, our quorum is somewhere 7 or 8. And that's pretty high. Right now, I'm looking at C4. We're close. We're always just there. You know, it's like the Eagles Commanders game. It's always just so close. And so we want to be able to kind of cross the line on that. So I'm going to look into that one. Hopefully in the new year. The new board's going to meet for a retreat here in January. We have heart to hearts. I'm going to bring the upper school of my heart to hearts with them. And so that's the minutes. So we'll have also our next meeting in January. You're going to see June, October, November, and December on there. Hopefully by that time we can just knock it out. So there's our business, our marketing materials. So if you didn't see one on the table, Ms. Daniels will kind of get us our draft of our materials. Just go ahead and review it for a minute. We will go around with some feedback. I could put a lippy sound, but I won't. Just take a minute to think time and review it. So I'm sure you're not shy. So if you get some thoughts, go ahead and let's go ahead and share them out. Sure we can pass the ball on that.
I think it'd be nice if the ear was bigger. And then if we hide either in like a white font around and the navy part really highlighted Citizens Advisory Council, since that is what we want to take away the B.
Yeah.
So either inside in the same color but larger font, or on the outside, like wrapped around, like curved, like the circle.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the like inversion of colors? Right now, I'm looking at the Ombuds logo, and I see here we have a version of color. We have white on yellow, and or there's white on navy. And that either of those like that idea?
I like the white on navy on the outside.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, I think the outside, that circle with the Citizens Advisory Council up on the top.
Yeah, I agree.
Be my,
Yeah.
and is this, I see the front and back, is this going to be a card that we hand out, or is this, I mean, obviously would be a poster?
So the answer is yes. I think once the council decides, like, you know, unless they're firm, we'll have materials. I'm sure it'll be added to our website. But then once we have what we like, and we can request it on the back of, say, maybe a survey we're doing, or back on a handout, something we're supporting. So I think it kind of becomes like ad hoc use as requested. I'm not sure our budget, if any at all. But I know that for the most part, I think for general usage, like at the fair, or like at an event, for like, say, I guess it's getting cold outside, but maybe like at a basketball game or some kind of like community event, we have materials, and of course they're from the kind of like these. Actually, we'll discuss whether we want to have it as a brochure or we want to have it as a square flyer. Thoughts about that?
Actually, I think a brochure would be nice. I mean, if we're allowed to do something like this, but
So then I think we would have to look at a sub-team, to talk about what goes in there.
and it could be maybe just like like maybe this shape and just,
Oh, it's just a
Cards.
straight.
yeah, because I don't think there's a lot of
Yeah, correct.
more information, but I think it's just,
Is there a way to make like a postcard to send out to families and do it that way?
A rectangle card, is it family or
Like a
postcard?
postcard in the mail?
So a rectangle postcard. I don't see why we couldn't.
I mean,
do
that would
could
get it in
ask.
the hands of everybody.
You can always ask, ooh,
We got the budget on that.
yeah, that's expensive, yeah, you can say everybody, right there. Ooh, yeah, no, that I know is expensive. I think like this is send like maybe one zip code in the county for $20,000. So that's a little, I think we'll probably get a lot more support just having a stockpile for physical events they hand out.
it might be nice to have at the school offices too. You know, if somebody's waiting to meet with an administrator or at school for a school event, like there's always like little brochures or something. So just something that somebody could pick up.
Well, can't it go home with the kids at the beginning of every school year, like the calendar does and stuff? I just think
We
to get
can-
it to a
Maybe it
wide
should just be
range.
We can
of
be in the
people,
calendar.
You can't just
Yeah.
take it to sporting events or PTA meetings.
I agree with you, but financially, I think having this part of being in the calendar probably be
Yeah.
more cost effective, most likely, and probably more requested.
Whatever is being done should be done in Spanish. also.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Do it.
And whoever made the point of having it on the first day of school, especially for new families, to say, hey, welcome,
Mhm.
here's your a place to go.
Right.
Because
Actually,
otherwise you get people just calling the FCFP, the switchboard all the time for
Mhm.
everything.
I think on top of that, what would you think about like, for the decal? You mentioned about school offices, I think about a decal, when this is perfected, but a decal by school office is like, have feedback.
Yeah.
Just like, you know.
Right, but his point is a great question about it being two-sided, because I don't think we always want it to be two-sided.
No. I was thinking of decal, it would just be mostly like the improved version of this, with like maybe like a QR code or whatever we use as a point of, for those general ones, like what we're doing well, we do better, do you have a concern, immediate concern? So I will get that back to Dr. Mark.
Laying off of the feedback thing you just said, maybe you could piggyback off the old got milk slogan, got feedback, question mark.
That sounds good.
It's probably in a certain font as well, where people would identify with it, and we'll probably all have the age that.
Right. But yeah, I think if it's more like a bookmark format, not like the trifold, but just
Yeah.
straight up and
I
down.
see it being multiple things.
Mhm.
Like, I did a fair booth at the fair, when I had like, I had pencils, I had like little decal stickers, I had cups. So I think depending on what we're looking to, who we're targeting at the moment, I think we can go different angles. I don't see it would be too much of an ask for every school in the county to have, once we had this, like, if you like it, a decal by the office, when the parent walks in, it just has feedback, for the county in general. I could get told no, but I think it's worth the ask. But just be mindful that everything, we're looking for, the caveat, we might get the word no. We can ask again in a different way,
Yeah.
but it might be no, so different reasons.
Quick question.
Yeah,
So I see there's an email address.
yes.
So is there a way to instead, especially if you had a QR code, to link to a form?
Mhm.
A very simple form. Just say, basically, your first name, your last name, a drop down of what school you're writing about, or no school in particular, or we're not yet in the district or whatever.
Mhm.
And then a box to say what's your deal.
Yeah.
And because if you had a QR code with an email box, you just have a subject line and then et cetera. But with this form, you'd be able to track it and save them. You could share that with other people.
Absolutely.
So
And you are right with us. We actually spoke to previous meetings. We were right there. So you're right with us. We're great minds in that moment.
and if you're not going to have a social media page, Instagram page, or a Facebook page, or a website, or web page, or whatever, at least you can have a form.
Absolutely.
And on mobile, that would be, I understand an app would be too much to ask, but
Right now, but we've got smart kids. So
Yeah, I was about to say, and I've made a lot of internship miles over the years with people say, that adds to somebody's portfolio. If you're a 12th grader, designing an app for the CAC would be nice.
I think that'd be it, we definitely look into in the future going forward, absolutely. But actually, for the form, with the council agreed with you on that one. We mentioned that passed around a lot. We came down to those three things, I think, which are it was going well, which we believe we improved on. Was it two things or three things? Just two? Yeah. Two.
I think we wanted to simplify it,
Okay, we're beginning
because
two.
we figured
Okay.
people would always embellish
Yep.
and give more.
Yes, so yeah, those two things. This would be on the form along with those questions like, where are you in the system? Are you new recruit hoping to enroll, Montessori, that kind of thing? So. And also keep in mind our charter schools in mind as well. I know a little bit different because like they're in some respects self-contained, but in some respects they're still with us. So it's kind of a dual thing. So keep them in mind when we're thinking about this as well. It's good feedback. Sorry.
Personally, I don't favor the whatever's coming out of the year. I think
Okay.
it would be better just one big year,
From big year.
but that's my personal opinion. I just feel like it looks like Wi-Fi or something. And the point is,
Now we can't
listening.
unsee that.
I don't know. That's what I want to.
Any thoughts about a way to kind of have an ear, a listening ear? Should we ask them a different?
What if it was like a hand or something? I don't know.
It was just like, huh? What'd you say?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, so
But something more like welcoming, I think. Like,
so what I'm hearing is basically you have them retool the logo too, the symbol. And that's fine because that's what they do.
does it have to be an ear? Yeah.
What was you thinking? Okay, microphone? I'll give a shout out.
Can you tell us what the extent, the board retreat in January, how that will take up this committee, this council, I should say? We'll address it, did you say?
So I said at the retreat in January, I was looking before the before the board, the request to lower our quorum. Right now, our quorum is pretty high. So it's hard to get officially from our minutes, which we need to do for meetings that.
Are we waiting on more guidance from the board about the purpose of the council?
No, the council we have that purpose and we have it contained here.
Okay.
And we got that earlier in the fall. I fought for that. Actually, I have received some, I'll say, encouragement from our new board president about a direction we can take. So I was going to bring that up as a meeting.
Okay. I just asked because if the new board is going to in some way provide additional guidance or change whatever we've already heard, then maybe it makes sense to wait on this,
Oh, what?
on designing logos and.
Oh,
things
no.
like that.
I can tell you from where we're going and what's been encouraged for us to look at. This is totally appropriate.
What if we did a picture of us?
A picture. We'll change though. Council will change. Unfortunately, I had two resignations. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. This evening alone, which I think which is hard to make quorum. That's why we have to get that quorum down.
Well, the idea is that it's like gonna continue past our term too. So
Yeah,
I think
but pictures of
we're
us though
hoping,
wouldn't work.
that's what I mean, that's what I'm saying. So like, it should be something that then, so the next term isn't necessarily having to revamp, like it's something that should be long lasting, I guess.
Would people resigning make it easier to make it quorum?
No, because the quorum is stated at 8.
Oh, it's a set number.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's
It's a majority,
Is it?
yeah, so it does mean our,
Majority
We
of
do.
active members.
so active voting,
Yeah.
because you and I don't vote,
Exactly. Yeah.
active voting members.
It's just,
We also need to look at, and those members that have not not been attending, because that's part of your agreement as a member of the committee is to come to the meeting. So we need to check, possibly reach out and see if we may have others that may not be as interested as they thought they were in the beginning, to see if that would affect our numbers.
yeah, that's.
And then possibly open it up to others, because we had quite a few people that applied. So we may need to advertise for additional membership.
And even in the advent of doing that, I still rather have a quorum down because as we're looking to send out more requests, we're waiting for, It kind of puts us in flux. I'd rather have it like, at, it could be like, some proper percentage. I know other things have had less of a problem with this.
Yeah, I know for me, I missed several meetings because I didn't know about them. It was only when somebody resigned and I happened to be on their email distribution list that I saw it. I just wasn't getting the emails.
And I got that from the last meeting, so I had, board staff send the email directly to everyone.
Yeah,
Oh,
that,
yeah,
was-
that happened.
Yeah,
because
so-
that was the problem with me. I didn't make arrangements for my wife was out of town, and I didn't make arrangements for
Right.
the children, and then it was like, oh my goodness, it's tonight.
Right. So, yeah,
So if I
What
had a-
percentage of quorum of the committees, on the other committees, what is their percentage of quorum required? Is it less than a majority? It's a majority. Okay, so it seems probably unlikely that the board would change that if every other committee has got the same goal, right?
you have not because you asked not.
Fair enough. Is there a special reason why we should have ours reduced?
Well, right now, I'd like to be able to move forward. We need, our minutes to be approved for legal purposes.
Do we have a majority of voting members now? What's our, how many members are on the committee now, as of tonight?
Tonight, see, the thing is, I can't call, for me, till I get a form, tonight I got two, so I can check that, but unless I get somebody has a comment a couple of days, because he missed it because he didn't get the emails, and he didn't have the same problem. So I'm not gonna just say, oh, you didn't come, so you're off the council. I didn't.
Well, I know, I'm saying, how many are left as of now? Just
As
curious.
of now. Okay, so I have to go to my email for that.
Is this, I apologize for not knowing, is the secretary present or somebody?
The president is not here, nor is the secretary.
President is sick, the secretary is not present.
Was that, I mean, if you need a volunteer, I'd be happy if you gave me the list to call people and ask if they were still interested.
We have a formal email that we normally send out, and then we can follow the phone calls, and that'd be great if you're willing to.
Sure, and also, I would agree that, to your point, there may be not only to have a cleaned up list, but also in January to get the board to agree that on some type of rule where if we've made a certain number of attempts, if you miss a certain number of meetings in a row or et cetera, that would be.
What we can all do is review our bylaws, so I'm sure something
Right.
is sit right in there for that.
I do also think it would be helpful, because I feel like I think at first it was a little confusing with our direction, but I feel like our direction in the last couple of meetings, I think we've been very productive and a more focused direction. But I think we're not necessarily communicating that with people who haven't been here. So I don't know if there's a better way that we can share the minutes, because board docs, I don't think is very user-friendly personally. So I don't know if in the email, if we could send an email after the meeting with,
Yeah, I feel like.
was there
I got-
one?
I got
Okay,
one with that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so but I think we just did that at the last meeting, so I think
Yes.
we did it again. And then said the next meeting is, and then there's also the follow-up with Catherine Rich. I think the combination of those, because I do think that was more successful at the last meeting.
The bylaws don't look like they have anything about recusal or removal or anything like that.
And so we may need to amend the bylaws. I'll look at the bylaws of other committees, because other committees have
Makes
that
sense.
wording in there already, and so we'll bring that back to the next meeting.
Yeah, so you get a minute without the board's approval.
We have to come to agreement first, and it goes to the board.
Well, after the agreement, we're not at quorum.
And then could we print
See,
the,
that's the paradox.
would we then be able to print the minutes on the back of the agenda to make that process easier in the future?
That's just the feedback.
Because then when we approve the minutes, if we don't bring our computers, everybody can just look at it. Just to speed up that process.
Absolutely. So, put this on back. Feedback. Here, so we have to close.
And I'd be happy to bring my computer and fill in if the secretary's not able to come. Just because I feel like you're doing a lot of leading and talking, and that's hard to capture.
Well, I'm listening back in school, I've done notes.
There you
and I
go.
back and I write it out, so I
And the
appreciate.
meeting is
you.
being recorded.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
So to the question earlier, I have to, so, log into my email. Yeah, log into my emails as a whole performance, so we should keep moving and I'll come back with that information. So next up on our agenda is to hear from our one and only amazing ombuds, Mr. Greenell. Ms. Snell is one of two direct, two direct board employees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, along with Ms. Catherine Rich. And so, Ms. Neal is it's a pillar of strength for the board, which you'll hear about, more about right now. If you don't have already, I can pass out to you these pamphlets, which will aid in tonight's discussion about. So, actually, you can pass those down if you don't have those, and do you have one over here? Okay, give them- okay, I'll just,
There's a couple more if you want to.
So, the Office of the Ombuds is an office that was started by the board in 2019. I'm the first ombuds with FCPS, and in Maryland, Frederick County is one of 4 districts that has a K through 12 ombuds. Ombuds is an odd word. People look at me funny when I say it. And what it does is it helps to navigate the school system. So you may have heard of ombudsman, ombudsman, ombudsperson. Frederick County just kind of has ombuds to be gender neutral. And I'm designated to look for options for a resolution of a concern. So if somebody has a concern within Frederick County Public Schools, it can be anything. It's a wide net. I work with parents, students, staff, or community members. They can reach out to me directly, and then I work with them individually to look at what choices there are. Kind of equate myself to a GPS. So there's many different routes you can take to get to the same destination. You can take the long way, the short way, but it's up to you to decide how to do that. What I'm doing is I'm providing the options of how to get there and what to look for and what are some choices, and it's up to the person that reaches out to me, meaning the visitor, as how they want to proceed or if they want to proceed. So I help foster collaboration is a big part of what I'm doing with Frederick County Public Schools. And it is an independent and informal contact. So when I say it's informal, I don't direct staff on anything that they need to do. I provide resources for the person that's reaching out. And if they need a formal process, I help direct them to that formal process. It's independent because I'm an office of one and I report directly to the Board of Education. So I'm outside of the normal chain of command to the superintendent. And it's also independent, meaning that I'm not aligned with any other department. So if someone has a concern with a certain department or a certain school, I'm not aligned with that, so they feel more free to have a discussion about a concern. It's also confidential, which again, working with staff, sometimes they're concerned about possible retribution, or even some students or families concerned about retribution, so that confidentiality is in place unless there's a risk of harm. Then by law, of course, I have to share information. But that gives it psychological safety to have a conversation and talk about what are some of the choices and how they want to proceed. It's also a neutral space, meaning that I'm not advocating for the school system, but I'm also not advocating for the person reaching out. I'm advocating for fair process. Make sure things are done fairly and consistently across the school system, no matter what school you're at or no matter what department you're in with Frederick County Public Schools. So it's a very wide net, as I mentioned. People have reached out to me in regards to bullying concerns. The top ones last year were bullying, special education concerns, and employment concerns. So whether working with your supervisor, working with another coworker, different concerns, morale issues regarding employment. So all of that, those were the top 3 concerns last year. Part of where I see how the reason why I wanted to share this information, because a lot of what you'll be hearing could be something that could be directed to me to help that person or those people look for options for resolution. So I want to make sure that you understand the resources within the county so that as you're passing out these cards, that you know what to do with information. Have you talked to, is there anything we can do to help you? Would you like additional information? Those are some of the things that you all can do to help the person that you're speaking to, and to share information, and raise awareness, to let them know that there's options for them out there. Because you may be getting a lot of emotion when you pass some of these cards out and you get some feedback. And so with that feedback, we want you to be armed to understand that there are choices. You could say, have you talked to the principal? Have you done this? Have you done that? And those are all, again, different pathways that I can work one-on-one with people and explain to them what some of their choices are, and they can decide how they want to move forward. Part of also what I was thinking that we may be looking at is I can explain to you some generic cases and things that have come up. So if you're talking about, hey, we've heard a lot about this one thing, I can say, so I've heard, maybe 20 cases about this, or whatever that may look like, to see if this is something that needs to be addressed back to the board in a different way. If we have to look at a certain policy because there's something that's missing, that's not being addressed, or if we're hearing a lot from a certain school about a concern, then is that something that awareness needs to be raised, and what are some of the pathways that we can do that? So those are all how we're envisioning this committee working with the Office of the Ombudsman. It's a lot of information.
And from my understanding of the last meeting that I was at, you're also going to be the monitor for the email
Yes,
address?
yes, I am the monitor for it.
Will you, if it relates to us, how are we gonna get that information? I think is a good question though. Like, are you gonna share emails at our meetings, or would you forward them? If it relates to, like, if you get one from a certain district, would you forward it to the representatives from that district? Like, what would that process be? Because at some point, you might get a lot of emails.
There could be a lot of emails, and especially if we have a form like Mr. Hummel said. So, for communicating that back to the committee, I think is something that we would have to discuss. Would that be, if we're gonna break up the committee into certain people that are addressing certain areas, then yes, it could go to those people directly, or we could come back and share in the general meeting as a whole to address certain things. And do we want to follow up, again, that the Office of the Ombudsman, I could follow up directly and say, if you want to speak one-on-one about this is the option to look forward, but still talking to the committee. Again, because if the email's coming into the committee, that's outside of that confidentiality and such that I have. If they want to move it forward in a different direction and have some conversation, then we can let them know that that's an opportunity if they wanted to do that. But again, sharing and having the information back to the committee, if it comes into that CAC email, then absolutely that has to be done. It's just a matter of what process, what that would look like.
Two questions. First, you mentioned one of the examples was employment concerns. You mean FCPS employment concerns?
Can reach out to the Office of the Ombudsman, yes, and that's what I work, only FCPS.
I
Is
see.
what, as an ombudsman, that's what.
Is that all you meant by employment concerns?
Yes.
Okay. And then my second question is, just out of curiosity, why does the CAC's email address come to you? Wouldn't it come to the council president? One would think.
It has to be a staff person that looks at the FCPS email.
Is that based on
That's based on
School policy.
school policy.
Your QR code leads to a page that would be a really good model for the CAC. It's very simple, straightforward. I mean, especially with a little form on the bottom, but even in the absence of that, it's got all the bullet points and these fancy fake people. And I mean, maybe they're real people. I don't know. I shouldn't assume, but yeah, that's really. I always took the word ombuds to mean everybody's pal. Just kind of make everybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We try, or I say we, I'm an officer one, I try. But yes,
Where would you find this brochure? Just curious, because we were talking about what to do with ours and stuff. Like, where is this put?
so I visited all the schools over the summer, but offered to put some as Lauren was sharing about, and there's a virtual folder at each school. staff is aware, or should be aware, about the Office of the Ombuds. I go to the fair, again, this is like what we were talking about, so I travel to the fair, I travel to resource fairs at different schools when they invite staff in, I try to go to multiple resource fairs throughout the county. I talk, again, if I'm meeting someone, if I hear something out in the street, I have them in my car, pass them out. So marketing is a big part of making people aware of the Office of the Ombuds. So that's a big part, and that will be the same for us, making people aware that this is an avenue to reach out and to have your voice heard.
Is there any point, is there any
Yeah.
point in, making a combined handout for ombuds and the CAC, since the goal is very similar, it's just different routes?
So we want to be careful that we stay in, an addendum to feedback. So the Office of Ombuds is the direct channel for wayward souls in the county. We're catching the feedback. We don't want to cross over into doing this mission. Actually, before the board president has a different route for us to look at as well. So we have multiple avenues. I don't think having us on the same page literally is, so here's how I see it. I see it as us being a support to the ombuds. Because the thing is, when you get feedback, honestly, just flat out speaking, we're volunteers. And we're volunteers for the county, but we don't have just a list of where everything needs to go. But Ms. Dale does. So I think if we can catch, receive, and then pass on, I think it's more like that. So how that works out, I think that's the channel it should go. Because like, we kind of help amplify our powers, if being like on the scene. So I think a part of our mission is to channel back to the ombuds. And I'll get into what the board president actually mentioned to me at our last meeting about this direction for us to go. So we have work that's going to be beyond just feedback, and looking into making change for the county. And I think we can look back and say, hey, look, I was a part of that. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we're still
Right,
here.
and as part of the bylaws of the CAC is to, the CAC reports directly to the board and serves as a channel for public concerns, advice, and information as identified by the board. So since there is a new board in place, this direction from the CAC may slightly change or tweak. So again, knowing your resources, that when that information is received or what to do with it, that way you're armed with that information and be able to pass that on to the people that you're connected with and working. So I report, just so that you know, again, I report directly to the Board of Education. There's a public report on the Office of the Ombuds webpage about the cases that are received and how many people and visitors and some of those. Again, those 3 top cases that I received last year, that information is all part of the report that's given to the board.
Did you want to mention your thoughts about the report reporting? Have no report like a shadow on the same day, or?
Yeah, if there is something that comes up when you are communicating with people and you're gathering information, again, you have now a brochure from my office. You can directly provide them with my contact information, give them the brochure. I can give you all more brochures, business cards, different things. But again, people could be emotional at the time when they're speaking to you, and I try to be as available as possible. So if someone reached out to me, they are receiving contact back within 24 hours at the longest. Usually it's within a couple hours is what my goal is.
Yeah.
So being there and being, at that time is going to be something that, again, you all could help to facilitate that.
And actually, I think this is a good time. I'm gonna, I want to move the last bullet here, especially discussion with suggestions to the board. I think that was okay. I'm going to move that part up. I'm going to move down. Review of identified concerns. We'll do it at the end. So I think it'll feed well into what's happening next. And so a part of what making sure that the Venn diagram is proper for us versus what the ombuds does. The ombuds is a strong pillar for the board, and we support that. Venn diagram. But for us, our primary mission is to be timely. And so the ombuds is going to be that hand-holding, in-depth, walk with you to the end of the chain of concern. So we can funnel concerns to the ombuds, but for us, it's going to come down to speed. So I'm talking about like what we can do and what we're going to look at doing. It's going to help kind of channel some of our energies. And so speaking with our board president, she had an excellent suggestion that we're going to look into. Speaking with Ms. Nail, we're going to get this properly vetted first going forward to the year. Speaking to the board president, she has a strong concern for where we are in terms of policy. And so we have a lot of policies in the threshold. There's one that I brought up a while back, about 2 years ago, about homework. It hadn't been renewed since 2015. Actually, probably earlier than that, like 2011 or 7. It was really, really, really old. And I'm looking for change in that area. But in general, the president said that it would be a great use of our time to take our concerns, what we're hearing back from the community, and look at SCPS policy. And then in conjunction with the policy committee and the board council, be able to suggest, things that be sped up and recommendations. So like the policy committee will meet and they'll say, okay, the policy on vending machines. And the policy says like vending machines can have any food in them whatsoever. We're here for the community that parents might say like, oh, I really don't like they should have this cheese flavored thing and it's really, really bad. And so we can make suggestions to the policy committee. This policy is old, that it was used in '89, and this is all hypothetical. It's been renewed in a while. We make suggestions that we move up in cycle to be reviewed sooner. And that when you review it, instead of looking at these points of the policy, okay, they take that as part of discussion, and changes happen to the policy that will improve it based on our suggestions. And so when the board votes on the policy, okay, wow, okay, yes, we see that. We heard from the supervisory council that they're looking at this part. We heard from board members with this part. We need comment from the board meeting with this part. We come together and make a new change to the policy. It's happened a lot in the last year with our racial committee and our committee for CCAC, Education Committee. They've done similar work. So those two things have made a lot of progress in changing our policies, improving them, looking back at the change. So we're looking at racial education, we're looking at lens of racial equity, we're looking at changing overall community feedback. What's the community saying about our policy? The community feedback about this community feedback is a policy. Wow, they don't match. We should really look at this policy here and we hear the community that they want this to happen. So we're looking at feedback. It was the policy community. They look at the feedback, go, what do we get from our Citizens Advisory Council? And let's look at what we can do about that and bring it a little meld in. We'll be like, whatever we say goes, whatever we say will have weight. That's one avenue for us. So we have 3 avenues right now tonight. One with the ombuds connection and the feedback to the community. 2 with looking at policy, looking at policy renewal and bringing and recommending policy as old to be renewed for proper changes. And the third one is going to be almost the lens of the entire, it is the lens of the entire county. So you're familiar with the blueprint law recently? So Maryland blueprint law, I think a wonderful law that's going to make Maryland even awesomer than it is. Honestly, Maryland has came in #1 for education for several years in a row, a few years back, and just education is really great in Maryland. The current commission met, and they were able to have say, okay, what will make education in Maryland awesome? A complete wish list. And they came back with recommendations, and it went through state legislature and went through some tussling and some renewal. But what we have in front of us are some strong pillars. I should go direct you guys to the website for CPS right now. If you have computers, everybody has them. Okay, we'll work that out next time. I'll have them printed out for you. But can we get on the screen? Yeah, on the screen. Get that pulled up. So someone said get that pulled up. So what's happening is we have these great pillars of how to direct education in all of the state of Maryland, Richard County. So these pillars are going to guide how we do teacher pay, how we do education, how we do community connection. It's gonna drive everything we do. So that we have to be, as a council, if we're gonna be any good to the county, we have to be willing to reverse our needs. So I'm giving you homework. And homework is to go and look at this presentation we're going to go up here now on the blueprint laws. Now, it is not finished. It is still moving in process. Right now, the county and the state, they're still bringing things into alignment.
The law passed, but it's
The law
not-
passed. It is now being acted upon. COVID made things weird. And so there was all this, like, it's like to happen right now. And COVID was like, oh, well, it was COVID. So hold on, revote. Has to happen in 2 years. So there are laws that are gonna change how we do school for the better. We're gonna improve teacher planning time. We're gonna improve student access to courses. It's just happening now, actually. So Frederick County is doing very proactive on bringing things to bear for our students. For instance, if you have a middle schooler, they are going to have access to a lot more electives than they would have before. Before they had this real strict list of like, you do this, this, and this, that's it. But now we've broken up the semester to where now, over the course of a year, you can take 2 electives, not just 1. And so you can for my son, he wanted to do engineering. He was never available. He did band. And so when he had band, they said, oh, it didn't work out, can't have it. So with his whole career, like, man, I'm sure I had this class that was never available. Now we're gonna break it open and give kids more options. It's part of the law. There's a lot happening with that. So I think we should get well versed in that as a forefront to guide our work. So when you're hearing any feedback, there's things that people are concerned about, that change is coming. You can go, oh, well, just give it a year. We're actually working on that right now. So I think it'll be, it's imperative as a county council, community, CPS council, to know what's happening with Blueprint. So I'm going to have this thing up just shortly, because it's really, it's, if you want to know where we're going as a county, this is where we're going. This is our driving factor. So, yeah. Blueprint. So while you're out over the break, I know all my kids at home, I know. I don't give homework. I just give homework. I know. That's kind of my role in the classroom. I don't give homework. I teach AP. I teach Java GT. I get 5s on the exam. We don't do homework. I know. But this test is important. We're doing homework. So this is the Blueprint for Modern's Future. So I'm going to ask you folks to, over the break, to peek at this, keep an eye on it. It's going to guide how we do child education, early childhood education, college career readiness, mental education, teacher workforce, and how we ensure student success. So this is very impactful. I love our top bullet there, early childhood education. If you look at my my little spot on the podium, I have this behind my my name on the dais. This is a innovative jury centers. So the jury centers are FCPS's medium to provide great instruction and support to our youngest of learners, our pre-K learners. And so we have, I think, 3, Ms. Dale, 3 centers, 3 or 4 jury centers. And so we have excellent places to learn for our preschool students, especially. And they're getting technical education, they'll be able to read early, read strong, and have great careers. And so I'm looking forward to supporting our youngest learners. I keep them in the forefront of my mind with this. This is from their handouts. And so what the Blueprint does is make them a priority. So we're going to support young learners. We're going to become strong readers who will be leaders in our community. And so the Blueprint has that in mind for our start. And then looking towards the end of our students' career with us, career technology. We have more students who are going out into the community as apprentices. So we're working, actually, I can tell you right now, small experience. I was actually at physical therapy. I had a back issue. I was getting my back work done. And they would say, hey, can I have my student shadow us right now? I said, yeah, sure. And I uploaded a student who was next grade up to high school, part of my therapy. I'm like, this is wow. So she was there helping me out, do just this, hold it so it hurts, let it go. but she's actually already active in apprenticeship work as a high school in 9th grade. And so that's a wonderful thing. We're gonna have, see more of an accounting. We're gonna have kids actively working in their desired fields like now. So Blueprint is gonna be, it's just groundbreaking, it's phenomenal. It's gonna make Maryland just the envy of education. And so this is gonna be what I'm actually look at over the break. You probably become more versed than I am, I'm sure. But we're gonna look at this in, as a committee, when we're taking in feedback, remember the Blueprint. We're looking at, policy recommendations, on the Blueprint. And so some of it, that'll be worked in there, but the things you be able to see and know what's coming in the pipe. And so that's the one thing. So it was,
Let me go ahead, just so that everyone understands, if you click on any of these, so if we click on career and college readiness, it takes you to, they have a one-page document that you can click on that provides additional detailed information on that one page. So whichever part of the blueprint you want to look at, each one of those has a one-page document to briefly describe what the blueprint will be focusing on within that area.
There's a high degree of confidence since it's not technically all the way through the legal process.
no, legally it's law.
So this is the final, what it's gonna look
What's
like.
happening right now is implementation.
Okay, got it.
So what's happening is we are rolling it out. For instance, there are things that are required, that we have to go back and retool. We're retooling how we do our middle school technology courses. So those have been recently walked through, and they're being implemented for the fall next year. So these are happening now.
So on the other side of this, there might be someplace probably right there where somebody could click on and say, pursuant to 3A, we're doing this, or pursuant to 2B, we're doing this.
Sure. Yeah. And then also look a little bit further out, you can see the SCPS administrators who are leading those efforts in each one. Along the edge of the circle there. Yeah. But there's a couple of education, childhood, Christine Pearl's leading for CTC, so you can see where we're leading CTE, where we're heading at.
So that would be the who, and then the what. comes
Yeah,
in.
that's the who's leading it for us. So every county and state has to follow Blueprint. So the great thing, this great things happening across the state. So no matter where you go, your students should have access to this great education. That's what make Maryland just even better. So I mentioned the speed, about speed, I mentioned looking at policy to get them kind of up to date sooner. Again, that's gonna be a work for us, a work for us as well. So,
Can I pop in one more second?
sure.
So this is the way we can search our policies.
Mhm.
And I know that in the last meeting, the calendar.
What's the other links?
Right, wasn't it, the calendar information was brought up? It has a quick overview, regulations are something that is created, that's the implementation of a policy.
Yeah.
So that's done by the superintendent, that's not done through the board of education.
Yeah.
That's done through the superintendent as implementation, but policies, and let me give you an example, of school calendar policy, policy 401.
That's a different committee, but we should just that.
The calendar committee is different than the policy.
Yeah, the calendar committee is gonna handle calendar policies.
Right, no, but let me just share
Mhm.
that
Yes.
down here, if we look at this legal reference down here, this policy was adopted in 2001.
Right.
It was revised in 18, and that's the last time it's been reviewed. So when we're looking at policies, this is the area that you want to look for to see when it has been reviewed, and then we can look at back to, look at possible recommendations when we're looking at policy. So I just wanted to give a general example because we talked about calendar. There's
Gotcha.
the calendar committee, which is a different, that's part of the regulation, that's part of the implementation of this policy 401.
Is there a way to export all of these, or you have to individually go into all of them?
Individually,
That's awesome.
to my current knowledge, to my current knowledge. It may
How
have been
many
improved.
are there?
Oh, there are
There's
hundreds.
a lot.
Yeah, and so what happens is the idea is this, I'm hoping like a class group that we aim at this, we had the blueprint for our lens, the community feedback, and look at the policies, and where can we just improvements. And so that's kind of how we'll focus on, like, okay, I'm hearing this from the community, Blueprint says we'll have that ready for them. So it's right there. But you know what? They ask their question, and I look at the policy, there's a gap there. So as a committee, we say, you know, we recommend this be looked at and possibly this be changed to this thing. So what we recommend, we take into account, no guarantee it'll be grafted in, but it very well will start a conversation. I'm gonna ask our board council, which is, I'm going blank, and because I don't love her, because I'm going blank. Our board council, yes, for Jamie Cannon. Jamie, we love you. Just talk. Sorry. So Ms. Jamie Cannon is our head of policy changes in our legal council. So she's gonna have the biggest say on how we pull up policy. We can recommend it and come out, it's like maybe like a year off. It should come up a little bit faster. I mean, she can look at that and she bring it up a recommendation, brings it up, and we can make suggestions for it, and we take it into account. Then the board will hear any changes that's been made by the policy committee and recommendations by us, and they'll have the final say. Board can go, you know what, they mentioned that, but we don't want that, and they push it back. So but you're in the talk though, you're in the conversation. So that's a real big push for us. And so blueprint, policies, feedback, and one more thing for us is going to be quarterly agendas. So the board has a quarterly agenda. Right now, it's still pretty open. It is not set right now. But in terms of you being curious and looking forward, the board's quarterly agenda kind of a help guide to kind of say where we're going. And now, right now, the last meeting is very, very open. So it's not totally set yet, but we bring the board. But I will tell you that honestly, if you're looking at the blueprint, you know where they're going. So that's why I mentioned the blueprint. The blueprint, like quarterly agenda, it may be set, but it could be like really like vague. Do some stuff. And you're like, okay, that's a quarterly agenda, but like, I want some more meat. The blueprint is your meat. That's going to tell you like that's where we're aiming ourselves. And so those things in mind, I believe that with community feedback, those coming together, we can make some strong progress for CPS. And as we mentioned before, like, you know, what we've all wanted for this committee. And Mr. I want to say John. I don't want to say Denny, okay.
John's fine.
Yeah, what you've been asking for, I can hear your questions are like, you know, where's the beef? And so this is the beef. This is where we're gonna be able to make changes that will help the county and move forward. We look back and say, you know, I was on the committee and we did this. We improved that. That's gonna happen for us.
Can I just, as far as then our structure of our time, because I feel like with like an hour or so meeting,
Sure.
so there's hundreds of policies. So would it make sense as like one of our, like for agenda items or part of our time be set aside to each of us coming forward with like a policy or a couple policies that we want to
I would think
make suggestions?
another way around. I recommend that we look at the community feedback,
Right.
drive our policy action.
Right, but then like if we're getting feedback in a certain area and then we go in and find the policy that might be revamped, then should we then present that at a future meeting? So have that be kind of an agenda item that we make suggestions based on the feedback that we're receiving to policy changes.
And then that goes to the board, and honestly, policy is timely. Because when that happens, it goes to the board, and look at it, review it. It's gonna bounce around a few times now. And we'll go boing, back for second reading, boing, we'll have it, and it'll bounce back and forth. If there's something finally sticks, then it goes to superintendent, and she will do regulation, which is how it's worked out, as her purview. As superintendent, that's her purview.
Could we maybe have that in a, like at a certain time when the agenda is printed, so that when we're, just to kind of, I'm thinking to
When it
really
when it
be
comes up,
organized with our time.
absolutely, so you
You
can.
know,
kind of
so like
speak
if our
to it.
meeting is Monday, by like the Friday before, if you have a suggestion of policy, that can be added to the agenda so that,
I don't feel move that fast, that's what's possible to me first.
okay.
So, it is.
I'm
So,
throwing
I
some out
mentioned the
there.
word speed, I shouldn't have said speed, I meant speed for us giving feedback, speed for it getting done, oh, wait, oh.
Well, I'm just trying to think for us, because I feel like there's a lot, I think moving forward for our committee, I would just like to see that we have a clear structure. Like I'm hearing a lot, this is really helpful and feel empowered with like a purpose, a clear purpose. But just then moving forward, because I feel like our meetings have been awesome and we definitely have a pretty passionate group, but how we can structure our time to be timely and the feedback that we're getting so that we're focused, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, man. I look forward to that. And I've provided these constructs here for that purpose.
Mhm.
So we can see where we're at and how do we hone in the use of our time. Absolutely, I'm hoping for that.
So I love like this whole conversation. I'm so excited to have like a direction. Would it be helpful to like make a list of all the policies? I mean, I could work.
All the policies?
So let me,
Are there like, when you say hundreds, I just don't want to then,
let me just share. Our legal department has a list.
oh, they do, okay.
They have a running list of when, and they're in order of those that are coming up, just as a
Okay.
normal review. However, if law, like blueprint comes into play, there may be a policy that has to be changed, or any other kind of legislation. That then trumps it and things get pushed in.
Mhm.
So that's why if there's something that comes up within the community, that it could be a focus of a policy, then that's where we might be able to say, hey, can this be bumped up? And can this go forward? So there is a list. We will work with our legal department to see if that can be shared with us if need be. But from Mr. J's point, what he's looking for, instead of going from the list, we're looking to come from the concerns from the community. And
Yeah,
going that way.
No, and
I think what you're saying is the list will help us when we get the concern,
yes.
go, which policy do we need to look for?
Yeah. Instead of us just
Well, and then that way
blindly
too, we're
searching.
not like talking for like an hour about a policy that is already in existence that we just don't know, it's, you know,
Right, yeah.
I mean.
You have access to the policies
Yeah, no, I know,
at
but,
nauseam,
yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
a lot there. You can put in a filter keyword and
Yeah.
pull things up for that.
And,
So,
and feel free to use the Office of the Ombudsman yourself. Do we have a policy for this? And that's, again, part of my
Okay.
job is to provide those resources. And so I can say, I can look for it and not take me as much time as someone who is doing it for the first time. Be able to look for something.
So I'm just hearing, like last time we kind of, at our last meeting, we shared out on when we went to a few community events and we each had some overlap of some things that we're hearing from all the areas. We're just saying, so if we took one of those
yes.
at our next meeting, we could see,
Yes.
this homework or equity of instruction or programming out the schools, we can go in and find the policies and make some suggestions and then.
And so that's why the meeting we had before, we all had a brainstorm session, that we were here for the community, that's still very much valuable. We can go through that list, we said,
Yeah.
what are our top three? Our top three, okay, what policies they're tied to? What has it been brought up recently? You know, and if it was done recently, you can still make a recommendation.
Right.
Because there
I
could
mean, maybe
be
we
items-
want to even do that tonight, like just to kind of give our next meeting a focus, like if we looked at some of the concerns that we all shared out on from our districts, you know, our feeder patterns, then maybe we can have a focus, because I think there's a lot going on between now and January.
Sure.
Except, so like if we had 3 policies or general areas that we looked at.
I think that ties in well with our next bullet here, with the review community feedback. So we're right in line with what we should be doing. So we bumped number 3 there up to number 2. So now we're on review of community feedback for council. That's perfect. So I think, if we could pull up our minutes from the meeting,
I have them
which was that number for the last?
Yeah, I have.
It was, what is it?
November 14th.
Yeah. Was it October's meeting? I think it was. When they had all the feedback kind of collated?
Yeah, this last one.
Was the last one? Really? Okay. And your time is melted for me.
I wasn't here, but I got the minutes and read them, so that's how it goes.
Okay. Also, there we go. Yep, there they are right there. Yep. So all those, so I guess looking at those and just our top 3.
Yeah, count.
I have some passion with myself. I really want to see it get back in, but it's not policy, it's more like regulation. That's just, homework and parents in the building. Yeah, it was a regulation, so that's my my horse to beat. So, yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Now. That's wonderful. So folks, take a few minutes and pour over those, and your top three, right now, we're calling you quorum. So your top three, we're gonna, actually, no, John, to your question earlier, John, yes, actually, because we had the one resolution this afternoon, it changed things. So we're down to actually 12 that I have current. 12, because we had 14. Now, it was, Vija and Mary Lynn. Was there another on this? I had two that I saw.
So
So,
one from last time, and there was one this morning.
And Don Lego, right?
well, he actually said, he actually didn't say anything for my, I checked with him and he said he wanted to stay on.
Oh, good.
He's just sick right now.
Great.
But when last time, when was the last time?
It was just in the email chain when I responded saying that I wasn't gonna be able to make it.
Just three, which actually still improves our odds. So I got to find that third one. I had two officially. I'll find the third one. So, but anyway, nonetheless, those are quorum now. So if there's three, I thought it was two, even better. Not good. We don't want people to leave. We want them to stay. Sorry, we're recording. People are taking it the wrong way. No, everybody stay. But if our numbers are that changed, if we're at 12, like I thought we were, yeah, we're at 50% right now. So if we're at 11, we're actually just over that. So we're actually okay to make. So I like to make can I make a motion? If not, or somebody please make a motion that we approve our minutes from ages ago.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all. June, October, and November.
Second, yeah, second, yeah. So all those in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
Thank you all. Those have been approved.
So it looks like it's just,
Who knew all you had to do was losing our numbers?
That's not how I wanted to
And
go.
to streamline everything.
Yeah. I think just show up, but yeah.
it
I've heard
looks like
work
it's
to work.
just the two that at least I have, the Mary Lynn that you mentioned, and then the one today.
Yeah, so that's why I have two as well, yeah, so we're at 12, which is still 50%, so we're, well, which is great. And best way of making something, like lemonade. Yes, lemonade. So that being said, please, council, take your time and consider your top three for anywhere. I'll let you folks say.
We're supposed to read that?
Just the bullets.
It's just the bullet, so we're looking at right here, just,
I don't know how to get inner bullets.
just from all these
list.
other bullets here. Those.
There are words?
I'm very down to
Oh, yeah, we can zoom in on that. We can actually copy and paste it to a different document. Let's try that. Just copy and put it in a Google Doc and then blow it up from there. Yeah. Thank you for that question. It's good. We had to accommodate all eyes. I'm so close, I'm like, oh, it's fine.
I'm close, I'm still struggling.
So we'll get that put on the screen. Thank you so much. Well, we're just moving and shaking people. It's wonderful.
Are the president and the secretary still members?
To my current knowledge, yes.
Oh, there we go. I can see that.
Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Need more carrots.
So at the last meeting, I think some of us were at the last meeting, but we had a pretty lengthy, in-depth conversation, and it sounded like there were some overlaps in the different feeder patterns on equity of like programming at all the schools. So I don't know if that's like opportunities for enrichment, opportunities for, so I don't know if that would be something that we'd be interested in. It was kind of student recognition. It's not totally captured there. There was also,
It was like uniform field trip would fall under that.
Yeah.
Can we
field
number
trips
each one of
fell over
those?
there.
I'm gonna get the board. I got a
we
trick for you.
discussed like,
What you like.
like that every school should offer switching, like a possibility of switching math classes, because some schools are doing that, and it allows for enrichment and acceleration, how the gifted and talented programs are being implemented at all the schools. And that just seemed to be something, that and field trips seemed to be something that was in multiple feeder patterns.
So I will share what may happen with some that we identify going forward. It may be answered by staff. I love that number 4 one. That's a good solution. But some of them may be wind up being met by the email. Like, here's what we're doing, and trust the blueprint, and the staff's there, so we go back. So maybe we'll identify 5, in case that 2 are easily answered.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that one is a general one that falls under the blueprint of ensuring,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely probably a policy for it.
Right.
But,
because I don't remember it was autonomy versus equity at all the schools. Because right now there's a lot of autonomy. So the administrator at individual schools have a lot of say in how they handle their staffing, like whether they put staffing in more the enrichment versus or gifted and talented versus interventions. And a lot of feedback was given that they should always have both, that every school should offer both enrichment and intervention, that programs that are offered at one school, there should be access for every student, even if they don't fall in the majority of the need, if that makes sense. So if it's a school that has a high number of kids who need intervention, there should still be an opportunity for students who qualify for gifted and talented to have that as well. And yes, every school is directed to do differentiation, but that looks different and how that's implemented at every school. So just having a little bit more consistency. And I feel like that falls pretty heavily under one of the blueprint areas. So I'm just proposing that be considered as one of our policies.
So the request was for us to pick 3 things off that list? 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another order from Brad Young. I know Brad Kirk, but this trick this time, that's not all. So, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our, we're gonna put, we have 14 things here. So we'll give each member 3 votes. We need 3 top 3, right? So we'll number them all 1 to 14. You take your time, you come up here and you'll put your vote by, each one, and then we'll see which one has the most votes, and then we'll kind of go from there. If everybody uses their vote, go for the one that they think we should move forward with. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use out here. Oh, this is
Add one, because I feel like we talked a lot about autonomy versus equity, but it's not quite captured up there. Like it's kind of captured in other things, but not, I feel like if you are here for the conversation, it makes sense, but not based on that.
So it's early with small markers, but gotta make it work.
Yeah, and maybe say of programming at every school. Yeah.
Well,
I think 13 would be not applicable if it's gonna be under the blueprint.
I think the other area that there's a lot of passion about, but I don't know how much we're gonna be able to do about number 8. There's a lot of community concern, but I'm not sure how that falls under. Because I think we even said that that's a county executive, not a board of ed.
yeah, the development that's gonna be over across the street.
Yeah.
So number 2, I feel like is sort of online safety, that's communicating not quite what I was
You can
hoping
talk
that
about
one would have
cyberbullying.
encompassed. That makes me think of, cyberbullying, or making sure you don't look up on the wrong website during school hours, blah, blah, blah. But my hope for that one was more like teaching digital citizenship alongside of standard health type stuff that is essential for kids.
Well, I hate to trouble you, but as an educator, I feel, I'm going to let you know, that cyber one is going to take another step forward. That's what's about bullying, it's also about like, honor code now. Because now with the advent of, you guys seen chatbot GPT? Imagine if you had Siri, Skynet, Google, and Alexa smashed into one.
Did you say Skynet?
Yeah, Skynet, yes, and make it smarter. I guess my students this morning, so I had a discussion with this thing this morning. We had a discussion. I asked it to write me a paragraph or two. It'd be beautiful. And my students asked me to solve an integral equation. It created one to solve it. So it's almost like having like a living tutor. However, you can just take from your tutor and just run with it. I have students say, oh yeah, I just last day written like that and just kept going with it. See articles on it, like, some say, oh, it's not there yet. And one teacher saying like, my most unhackable essay requirement, this thing did a good job on. So now it's about like using tools properly and citing sources. So you can just say, oh, paper, 10 pages on this. It's really that great. So it's chatbot GPT. I know, kids, I know. All right, so I'm gonna hand out these markers. So
Thank you.
And then put the share over here. The share, so we gotta share. We're gonna just, I'll try to find one more if I can, but we're gonna mark down, take your votes and.
Can we combine 9 and 3?
Yeah, I
I'm gonna look
agree.
at my markers.
3 and 2.
9 and 3. 2, I would say, is like online safety and digital citizenship. So that's more.
So
9 and 3 is more just like student discipline, bullying, behavior. I feel like those are the same.
regardless of where.
Right. So could we agree to combine 9 and 3 and just
I agree.
Would you have to vote down on calling them both 3 or both 9?
call them both 3? And
If you
9
want
is,
to write 9 next to 3,
Cross
3/9.
Yeah.
If everybody agrees to that, then just.
Yeah.
Does number 4 have to
I
be
think you left.
just?
I assume he's
supervisor,
coming back.
Or could it be training in general?
Aren't we missing at least one, maybe 2? There was a lot of discussion, at least 2 different schools, and I heard it now from a third in my area, about physical safety in the buildings, right? In the context of open classrooms.
Yes, we definitely
Right.
discussed that. I agree.
That's not up there.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
And also more broadly than assistant principals. So maybe it's under number 14, but staffing. Many people talked about overcrowding in the classroom. I heard in my local area, lack of counselors, not enough counselors in the buildings.
Yeah,
So I
I would
think that
say
need-
adding mental health.
At a minimum, 14 needs to grow to be staffing, not merely APs.
Can we tweak the list?
Yeah, but I do agree, mental health is definitely something that was discussed as well.
So
The first item you were saying was their actual physical security in the
Physical
building.
security in 2 ways. It was discussed last week in the context of, like in some of our elementary schools, you've got an open floor plan, right? So there are not even walls between classrooms. But then I heard more recently, physical safety in terms of entrances.
That's what I thought both, I mean, we all know what we're talking about.
Yes.
It's a physical plant.
I feel like
Okay.
that could be
Yeah, probably so, sure. Broad category, physical safety. That would work.
I read the list 3 times
If not
looking
every
for that.
school has
I figured it
open.
would be number 1.
So I'll do their order of importance is more like order of like
There's just what was discussed.
existence.
But we're just noticing, there are a couple things that did come up that aren't on the list, so. we're
Okay, so
just
you're making
adding
more choices.
some of
Oh,
those.
okay, the more that fitting in.
Yeah, just trying to capture it all. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, thank you.
Oh, I got that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess you can
Jared?
copy paste 9 and
Oh,
3
no.
and use it
Physical
and just
safety,
still
and
have
then
15.
17 would be mental health services, like more counselors.
Really? I had the one that worked? Oh, boy.
And I normally have dry erase, sorry, that was mine.
Another issue that was discussed, that wasn't raised, was on the list here, was feeder pattern alignment. The fact
Yeah.
that there's tensions, for example, in middle schools
Yes. I
between
brought that up.
groups of kids that are going to different high schools.
Yes, like at TJ Middle.
Could there be more relation or just one regulation, like how we do things, there being more of a superintendent's role. A policy like, I think a policy on, so you mean like, is that like, how does it manifest in behavior or relations kind of thing?
Well, it was just,
I don't
it does
think-
relate to behavior, but it does add to like school culture and just, it's an overall concern that was brought up
Could be
by
both.
several communities, yeah.
Could be both the behavior and the culture.
So I feel like I wanna just advise the council that we wanna make sure that we're looking for things that we can, because you can advise on regulation, absolutely. So, but just, I want you to be, teach your word, metacognition, be thinking about your thinking. So when you're thinking about regulation, we can be mindful of that, but I thought we were looking for things that go into policy. So things a little more stalwarty. It was kind of like in the fluid motions of how things are happening on the surface. And it's not really a type of policy, it's more like regulation. How we can do that. We're gonna come to the board, they advise the superintendent to do X. You can totally do that. Just be mindful if you're doing that in that regard. So some of them, it could be two regulation and one policy. It's totally open to us. Just really be aware of that process of thinking. That's
Maybe,
all.
in fact, could you explain the difference between a regulation and a policy that at a future meeting?
Absolutely.
That might be helpful.
I can do it right now.
Okay.
So policy is the what, regulation is the how.
Okay.
So like, we want, we want kids to have policy, kids to have, based on blueprint, kids to have great options for creative education. That's the policy, should be done. How it gets done, whether it's done CTC, whether it's done online, whether it's done in the Monroe building, whether it's done at his campus, that's regulation of the superintendent. That's how it gets done. We advocate for the building to get built, we do it that way. The power to make it happen and how it looks, superintendent. That it should be done, board. So, but you can totally recommend regulation. I'm saying it'll move, but totally recommend. Now, the superintendent, she's got great ears. And I love her statement. She said, I think she said, you said, we did. She owns that. So like, so you make a feedback, a suggestion, and it's actionable, she's gonna do it and let you know what she did in response to it. You said, we did.
So it sounds like the policy is the strategy and the regulation is the tactic.
Yep. And I have the one marker, so I'm gonna pass this around, so I don't have any more. So,
Number 17, these other markers,
17? Oh.
Yeah, 17 is getting mental health.
trying to be
Okay,
pragmatic.
somebody go to the board, you get the marker again. So, I've been the past, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna look upstairs for first markers, you might find some.
You just use the number.
Yeah, we can share.
Take a little while.
Or
It
or
might
you
take
can
longer.
call out numbers and one person could.
Oh, you can do that, yeah, for number one, hey, how many votes for this one? Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. Great idea, thank you. Save you a trip.
Number one calendar. Online safety.
We can vote for an amendment.
Five.
Oh,
Three. Sorry. We're trying to choose five. We're
We
gonna
said
vote.
five, so five votes, yep.
And then number 3, recess monitors, student discipline, bullying, all of that.
Oh, 4, yeah. Oh, five. Okay.
And then CPR for all staff.
I can't vote for it.
That's huge. There's a lot of things on them. All right, Mr. J. Small group requests for elementary counselors. I don't know if that kind of falls more under the mental health of 17.
I think that, yeah.
We want to just say first step, move to 17 of mental health, like who wants to go to. Uniform field trip coordination. And then there's that. Implementation of school recognition student recognition across schools. I think that was looking at different awards, promotion ceremonies, I think. 8 is holding developers accountable, and I think we kind of already got rid of that because we said that's more of a county executive. And then 10, return to character counts program. 11 is PBIS. That's positive behavior intervention. So like giving, when you see good, like a focus on like if you see positive behavior, having like school-wide things like, you know.
Concert or like,
Yeah,
the
like
ice pop
community
day.
building,
or-
yeah.
Yeah, or I've seen it with the kids in movies. Like the whole school, like, or most of the school.
Yeah. They're like limo things, but it's like, you know, immediate feedback, like you get an each ticket because you're sitting very nicely. Food insecurity. Class offerings in middle school. Staff assigned outside, so staffing, right? And we're seeing this is like class size too.
Yeah.
Number 14. Autonomy versus equity of program in every school. Physical safety in schools. These are 5 times a week. Okay. We already did that one. Did that earlier. That was number 17. I was having.
You agree with 5, I'm not sure if everybody understood.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you
So
wanna-
mental, so let's go back to mental health then. Okay.
All right.
No, that's okay. I think I did it when I was walking before, so I made it. It looks like 3, 16, and 14 and 12 are tied.
So,
I didn't realize 17, I would change mine from 14 to 17, so
Okay.
if you want to have 17 tied with whatever, just because I didn't realize my clock was up there.
What are the numbers again? 3.
so I see 2 has 3, 3 has 5,
16, 12, and 17.
2, 3, yeah. So, we'll go to top. Isn't 3 in that, in 2 in that whole?
We combined, yeah.
You combine
3 and
2,
9 were combined.
3 and 9 or combined? What about 2? 2's got 3, isn't that viable?
Yeah, I didn't actually use all my votes, so I'll throw one on 2.
Just trying to see, what number of controversial, a 4, is it? A 4, 5, 16, 17, 2 and 3. And then 14, relevant. Yeah. So wait, I'm seeing tied for number 1 is 3 and 16, do I see? So look at like, more color, 3 and 16, top colors. And then, ooh, can we make that, is there a little more question after that one? So was it
Which
just,
one?
just general like, taking to the like hallway passing, fighting in the school?
Walls, no walls, open classrooms.
I think like security at the door, like.
Okay, like perimeter safety?
You're a politician or
Well,
a
it's
school
just-
board member, this is about the clearest roadmap you could ever have in the world about what people's priorities are. There's nobody here talking about number 2 versus number 3 pencils. People talking about food to eat, secure, making sure kids are safe. This is the basic meat and potatoes of, this is all protein here.
Because it's Maslow's law.
Yeah, I mean,
But, I am, there's one reason why I was excited to help provide this council, because I'm like, why wouldn't we want to know, like, what's going on?
if you gave this survey to 100,000 parents in the county, I bet my hard-earned money in my pocket, you'd find very similar results.
I would agree the same. So we are essentially the focus group, which is the goal of the committee, to be a microcosm of the community, and also to gather more if we can. So, but just to can we add more than this just from my clarification? I'm not sure. When I see that, I heard walls, I heard like perimeter at safety. Which I think honestly, I would tell you just on RCPS's work, I will tell you we do better than some counties. I should go unnamed because this is not, a safety issue, but I'm very aware of a school that when the bells ring throughout the day constantly, students pass openly. And if they have to leave the building to go to this class, and that access is open to any and everyone. And so that happened in this county. It's happened in another county I'm aware of, very much aware of. And the students are open to the environment, both wind, rain, strangers. These are older students, so it's a little bit better, but still, it's the bell rings. They look from here, outside, open the door, go here. During passing hours, doors are open. For the bell to ring, you just walk in the building. So that has happened in some counties. So I will say room for improvement, absolutely. I will say Frederick County Public Schools, you have to go and wait your turn to get it. So there's a lot good happening. We have some schools where we have some open, some schools the county could use a little bit more closed space. But I think in general, from what I've seen, I'm more encouraged than not. But room for improvement, absolutely.
Well, and I would like to just add to that though, because I think the other issue with the badge system and buzzing in, like you said, is what happens when students are outside and they can't get in an emergency.
Right.
So there's a lot of like both sides. Like, yes, we need like the school to be somewhat inaccessible to just anybody coming in.
Right.
But what happens to like kids coming in from portables, for
Right.
example?
Right.
Oh,
If
yeah,
they're
that's
not
exactly where
able-
mine went.
If they don't
Because I
have
did
a
that all the time.
badge
So
and they
can
get
we
locked
put
out.
that next? That's what I'm asking for. Like, can we get that? Thank you so much for doing that.
So one of the things too, so well, I don't have it yet now, but I'll have it next year because the other one just went up to middle school. But the Middletown Elementary School, it's just completely new.
Okay.
I mean, there's some barriers, bookcases, fake walls to
This is
block
what-
one side from the other, but then the rest is all open. So my question would be like, that's obviously a unique situation in an activist and assailant situation. So like, what kind of training are those teachers, administrators, children given? Like, what can they really do?
And so
When that guy's in there, or whatever, when that's happening, they're completely exposed. So it's like, got into the kid in the candy shop.
And so what I'm hearing here, I think another thing to put on this opinion, I think you be kind of like, it's sort of I think we can look at from information first. So we can hear with the Ethics Center training from Scott Mandel, come meet with us and tell us what's happening in the schools when something like that happens.
So I mean, I understand where it happens at the high level, the run, hide, fight. I'm totally involved with that myself. But in a unique situation where the whole building, it's be just like someone going into a theater, and everyone is right there.
Well, two things there. One, I will share with you that I share publicly my discontent at some of our Ethics Center training. Because I know there was a Whippendale last year when he presented to us that one of the things they have for teachers is like and even how we build new buildings. Because we have a new building we're building that like the emergency escape, the school had open windows, those can't be opened anymore. I said, what if there's a situation where she comes in and you get out the building? Well, they have to break the window. I'm like, with what? What teacher hurt their back? Well, she's like 60 years old and she's not feeling well. Like, how can you? So there are some things that I had put some concern with. I brought up at a meeting that with DIY built into our safety concern. I don't like that at all. Yeah.
My suggestion / request would be, we're all on the same page. Let's just say that these are the 5 red line items, or whatever it's called. That there's a way to the school you mentioned before that you didn't name where kids were walking in and out openly, I would venture a guess that somewhere between 99 and 100% of the parents of those children don't know that. Okay, if you ask them, do you know that your kids pass blah, 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 they would say, no, I have no idea. Okay, why would they? The kids don't come home and say, by the way, we pass freely. I mean, nobody would say that. But if we were to say, these are our 5 areas, and somebody, I think, Mr. Wood mentioned, none of us, I can't speak for myself, I'm not an expert on anything. But if we were to say, okay, online safety, who could we get to come in and tell us what we don't know so we know we don't know it? And then we could say to our constituents, these are the questions we've been asking. And that would give you a baseline of ignorance.
Exactly.
And then you could work up from there. Because the parents don't know what they don't know. So, and that would apply to everything evenly.
And I would first, before we go, because the staff will come and present to us on all these topics, so we can get the full board level breakdown of what was happening there. And we can make informed and educated.
Yeah, because if you don't know where north is on your compass, you're just walking around. When one of my daughters was in middle school, and I first heard that some children's only meal of the day is in school, I didn't sleep for a week. I just didn't, I didn't understand that was a thing. And now, it's a thing. Okay, obviously everybody knows that schools are shooting galleries because we all have access to the news and the last 500 school shootings. But some of them we need more granular information on.
Absolutely. I think that would be a double over what you're saying. I don't want to make informed decisions going forward. As you mentioned before, the council can now become educated advocates for the community. And honestly, that goes to a thing that the board president and I are very passionate about, communication. Because what happens is, a lot of times parents, you said before, parents don't know. I ask them on the street, well, what's happening over here? And they don't know either. They go to Facebook and they ask. And it's like this rabbit hole of misinformation. And these people were really frustrated. And the answer was right there. So we will really keep in the back of your mind, honestly. One thing that we are just never trying to crack is just communication in general. Because get to what where it's ubiquitous and people know about it. We're actually getting close to time. So we're actually at 8:30 now. We're actually at a time right now. So I want to take your bill to the council. Ask the council to make a motion possibly to consider having these items going through for January, and then looking at picking one to request somebody to come by and talk to us about. What's our number one, I guess? I can't make a motion, but somebody else
I
can.
make a motion that we approve these as our focus areas. Is that what we call them?
Sure, I love that.
Okay.
Okay, so-
I second it, but I think number 2 should be called digital citizenship or online safety and digital.
Risk of breaking quorum, I have to run. But
Yep, thank you. Yep,
and thank you for.
thank you. So yeah, so I think we will hold for there. These are our top 5, which we greatly make progress on.
Can
We'll,
I ask Mr. J, do you then share this with the board at your meetings, like your work session?
now that we have something with some bones on it, I will definitely present this to
Okay.
the board.
I
Now,
just didn't know that
If
structure. the back and
the
forth.
council, if the council approves, that's it, I'll present to them what you guys will tell them. So if they ask me for updates, I said like, we had a great meeting, talk about this stuff in general. But I reserve like what you want me to tell them, when you tell me to tell them. So if you want to tell them this right here, I will tell them this right here. And we'll.
No, I think, because I think that's the other piece of it is the back and forth communication.
Mhm.
Like, especially if there's a more timely, so I know we've discussed back and forth about like not knowing the agenda, but I think
Right.
if they know that these are our focus areas, if there's one that's more timely than another for a discussion that they're having,
Right.
to make it more
So at each-
effective, I guess.
At each board meeting, each board member talks about their committees that they're liaison for, so that information is shared for public knowledge.
Yep.
So the board members and to.
And I usually keep because I'm always keep stat for time, so I burn my coins wisely, soup and bread, so whoever's leading the meeting. But what happens is if you mention my name, I shout. So if you want, we're still like the phase of research right now,
Yeah.
so we're gathering information. So I think, if you want me to, I'll share about that, but I think we can So we made a lot of progress, so we have our focus on blueprint and on, looking at next level policy. I know Mr. Johnson will be very happy to hear about.
And if there's one of the 5 that you want to focus on for next month, I can send out information in advance about what's already available. And so people can look at that. So if you will decide on which one, or did you decide?
Which one's your next one?
I feel like these are hard.
Yeah, we still
These
have,
are big.
we still have quorum because the only one person left. We still have quorum. We just know what your number one is. If not, we can do wait till January. Totally fine.
Well, number 3 and number 16, each got 5 votes.
16.
So we can start with the physical safety if you want. I know that there was.
Look at that, safety, online safety and physical safety.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue with, I mean,
Safety.
So I guess.
Well, no,
propose,
because
like,
number
whatever
3
one's
is
available.
behavior. 3 is more behavior.
Oh, 3, I missed that. I thought it was 2, sorry.
Well, I think those are big.
Lisa's monitoring. Actually, Liz Barrett would have loved to, see that. She was very big on that. I think we made some progress on that. She was chipping away the.
if I was a parent of a child in the county school system, which I am, I would be curious to know, my daughter goes to Oakdale High School.
Mhm.
I know they have a resource officer who sits in the office.
Right.
That's all I can tell you, other than that they have an electric lock on the door. I don't need to know the entrance and egress points of the security staff. That's, whatever. But right now, my current resource, my current personal system is prayer. And I would like there to be something better than that in my head. That when I send her off to school in the morning, that I have, better than a 16% likelihood she's gonna come back.
I can tell you, that's actually one of the highest things you can do, from my perspective, is really add to that.
Yeah, just say, look, what does good look like? Where do we stand and what's on the table?
For sure. And so, hearing is basically we want to be educated on these points. That's not what we're going for. So, I can send these stuff to Marco. Now, if I would love to get from you right now, I'm asking you for your order of attack. What I can do is I'll send it to Marco. I have, have some Marco and ask, listen for this staff, how do you do these? And so.
Can we do both of those top 2 ones? Like, could we look at
Mhm.
behavior
I was
slash
thinking
bullying
You
and
get
physical safety?
one per menu. This will be pretty easy.
Yeah.
And we have to find town, actually, you know what? Based
Maybe say
upon
availability.
staff
Yeah.
allocation, what they're up to, it might be better if we just ask for them to be presented and take it when we can get it. Because listen, when we have number 1 done, they can't get to us. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So we've got it narrowed down to some and then just present those and see. And then we have an order. And therefore we can go from that order and say, well, we want to hit this one first. Oh, well, we don't have that person available until then. So then the next one comes into the
Yeah.
order. That person can't do it either. So then we actually end up doing 3 first because that's the first time it's someone.
So,
But just so take the list and then see what kind of feedback you can get
yeah,
back.
give us one every month. going
Who's
forward.
available January to come out, and it could be the number 5.
Agreed.
Right, that's
Yeah.
true.
I think how things work out with staff, it's probably going to be really, really good
They
because,
have enough events notice.
yes, but staff, actually, we have a key player, a staff member out for medical leave. And then we have another person who had present at state level. So we're still waiting for different reasons. And then with Blueprint coming down, they're allowed to use Blueprint as well. And we have the town Blueprint, there's a Blue River Task Force, they need as well. So there's good reasons for them to whisk away. So I think we do better for our averages, which we move in the next 5 months going forward. Those 5 months from January to May, we're making progress each month on one of our big items. We're just asking them to present. They can do that for us. Each month, I want to present it. How the order comes, make it happen for us. I think that's push that.
Well, and just one thought as well as staff availability, we can't necessarily control the feedback that's coming in. So we might,
No,
if we keep all 5 of these kind of on the agenda, and just if there's updates, like if somebody gets a lot of feedback because of something that arises in a feeder district, it should be,
I should jump up,
Yes.
right? And unfortunately, hope not. Things to pop up in Virginia County.
right.
I hope not. I hope there's a nice, a happy new year. So a happy new year. But I love that, and without any other concerns, all hearts and minds are clear. As since I didn't remember, I kept this meeting adjourned.